Good afternoon from Madrid, and thank you for putting together this two-day Safe Fest. My friend Andy talked this morning. He talked about some things new and safe. I'm going to talk about some things new and safe, and I have a chance, because this is a safe environment, sorry for the pun, to really speak as myself and talk about the things that are important, the things that are changing, the things that we're doing in safe, and the things that we believe will make sure that your future is safe with safe. And I always start with not getting a mouse click right with the agenda, and inspired somewhat by a kind of a challenging presentation I got just a few weeks back, where somebody said, well, what's up? What do you guys do? A large enterprise had adopted SAFE, and they were asking the right questions. Are we on the right path? Are we doing the right thing? And what happens next? How do we know that we just didn't go out on this isolated tree branch here, hanging out by ourselves, and you guys, retire in place or retreat to your desk to invent new stuff that doesn't fly in the market? So it's a little bit of a challenge to say, really, how do you do your work? Where do your insights come from? What influences you in your thinking, and what causes you to make the next version of SAFE? As you know, there's always another version of SAFE underway. That will always be true. There's no way that you get a SAFE that just got it all done, it's just right, and it can't be improved. Every version we look at, by the time we release a version, we have new things. We're going to talk today about a lot of things that are coming up in SAFE, and you're going to see some of these in the area of AI and big data, cloud, DevOps, VSM, value stream management, this new label for what's going on with these value stream tool chains, what we're doing about it, and then I'll kind of key off of part of what Andy talked about this morning, was how to deliver value faster and faster with SAFE, because that's the key. Why adopt SAFE? To build innovative solutions and bring them to market more quickly. If you're not doing that, don't adopt SAFE. You don't need it. But if you want to do that, and those solutions are complex and they take more than a few people, more than a dozen or so, we want you to use SAFE, because we know the benefits are there, it works. So I always like to start by mining what our customers are doing. We're not the clever people in the industry. We're a group of people who focus on one thing. What are the current effective methods and practices? For sure, they come out of books and seminars and et cetera, and thought leaders. They also come out directly from the field. So we're constantly engaged in the field. It's almost an exaggeration. I used to live in the field. My wife said, you did live in the field. I don't travel as much now, post-COVID, to see what our customers are doing that's great, and to mine the best things that they're doing, ask permission to share, and bring that back to our other customers. So much of what we're doing is influenced directly by what the brightest people in the market are doing. One of the things that they're doing is they're implementing AI at amazing pace. And as you can tell, I've been at this a while. This is probably the third or fourth time in my career that I've taken a hard look at AI to say, is this ready for prime time? And is it working? And each has been preceded by a hype cycle, right? But that hype cycle is over, and AI is now absolutely everywhere. And I fundamentally believe that the ability to master AI and machine learning changes the nature of how we develop systems. It changes the nature of how we develop them, and it changes the nature of the systems themselves. So the whole process of software development and the whole types of applications we're going to evolve. And we see proof points everywhere in our customer base. We see them at Porsche, where they're using AI in all phases of the products. One of the things they talked about is how they developed a machine learning algorithm that would monitor the sounds of an engine on a test bed. And as they ran it through its paces, and they put literally thousands of hours on these engines, it would listen for anomalies that they couldn't predict what the anomaly would look like. That's just an example of using AI in the development process. They also talked about AI in their cars. They also talked about the way they use AI to determine what the patterns of usage are. So as they studied the usage of their cars in the field, the AI would say, have you noticed this kind of effect? Have you noticed this standard clustering effect where this group of people use the cars in certain ways? So not a new thing. It's here to stay. It's here now. Everything, you can't leave the building or get into your phone, get on an elevator almost without AI anymore. So it's here, and it's here to stay. So why do we care? Why does SAFE care? We care because we're helping people build the world's most important systems. And if those systems are based on AI, even in their application, in terms of the actual deployed application, or in the operational development value streams we use to create the systems, or use to gain customer insights, we need our customers to understand that this is part of the new deal. So we've got to provide some basic understanding. We're not going to be teaching AI. There's not going to be a machine language a learning course that comes from Scaled Agile, but we want everybody to understand what it is. What's the difference between AI and machine learning, if any? What types of machine learning are they? And most importantly, what can I do with AI that I couldn't do before? So how do I extend the boundaries of what I envision my application to be to a new level of performance based upon AI? So we're not your AI experts, we're not your AI consultants, but every one of our customers needs to know about it. My daughter has a company, a small company, basically a 2-pizza team company doing remediation for diagnostics for childhood mental health. We have to use AI. We're using AI to monitor the big patterns that occur in the data, to make recommendations. So this is a company of 10, 15 people using AI out of the gate to solve a problem. Honestly, I don't think you can do any other way. So it's part of our future. We need to be there to support you. This is our first offering in the space. We'll do more as you implement more and as we learn more about what we can do with AI. We've done 4 or 5 internal experiments with AI, and we've witnessed 4 or 5 others. And AI is a really big challenge. I mean, how do you validate programs and make decisions where you don't understand the logic that caused the decision to be made? This is not a trivial thing. All but 2 or 3 of those initiatives were epic level initiatives in and outside the company, basically just grounded out because of lack of the right kind of data. So if you don't have the data arranged and made available, and in some cases centralized, we love to talk about decentralized decision-making. If you want to use data from multiple value streams to make decisions, it has to be centralized and normalized and made available by APIs to others. So you need kind of platform data operations that integrate the data to provide a common view of the data, common APIs, normalized data, transformed into the right use case, sucked into the appropriate applications and tools. So at the same time, we're decentralizing everything. And there's some enterprises that have done a pretty good job of decentralized data in general. The reality is, in order to use AI and get the benefit of value stream A versus value stream B versus value stream C, we need to integrate that data and centralize the data. And without data, AI is basically it's just not going to go anywhere. So we want to talk about big data. The same thing there. What do we mean by that? What's the difference between a data scientist and a machine language developer? Well, those taxonomies matter. How you talk about data matters. How you treat the pipeline matters. How you transform the data matters. How you make it available to consumers who might be, for example, streamlined arts or just simply streamlined teams, or they might be a platform art that uses the data from the pipeline to make the data available by a data warehouse to others. How does that mix with AI? What are the roles and responsibilities? It's all evolving. Right now, if you're a big data engineer, a machine language developer, you're a hot ticket because there's few skills to support the incredible evolution and advanced usage that we're going to start to see with big data. The third element of that is cloud. And about a year ago, the first on-site visit I went to happened to be here in Colorado, was a customer who builds large-scale embedded systems, industrial controls. Think, monitoring nuclear power plants and pipelines and chemical processing plants and that type of thing, mostly embedded systems. So when you think about embedded systems, you don't necessarily think about the cloud. Their strategic theme, and that's the last bullet on this slide, was cloud native, cloud first. All the data that they were collecting from the sensors had to be cloud friendly. All the data went to the cloud. All the sensors had to be able to get data from the cloud directly. So they had completely re-architected their application topology to be fully dependent on the cloud. So the cloud is there. It's infinitely scalable resource. It's not free. It costs real money, but it costs a heck of a lot less than those depreciating data centers. And these organizations are increasingly adopting cloud technologies. Well, again, are we going to tell you how to get on the cloud? No, but we're going to give you some examples and talk a little bit about it. And we're seeing things like our client from NASA here made a breakthrough the first time that they've ever launched a satellite without basically a ground storage system for the data. It's always been ground storage system for servers, satellite in the air, local computing power, and then distribution data. It went right to the cloud. So the data comes into the cloud, goes through the servers, and it goes in from space. That's the cloud. Comes in from space, goes through the servers, and right to the cloud. So that creates ubiquity, in this case, of environmental data that they use and other people use to try to understand what's going on, what weather patterns are we going to exhibit. So one of the things I love, and I'm sure you love about doing what we're doing here, is we make a big impact. We make changes. We work for places like, the United States Federal Bureau of Intelligence, and they're a centralized database for bad guys. And that system, they tell us it's so much more efficient since they redesigned it with SAFE that they catch more bad people. We work in all kinds of areas. We help companies like Aetna CVS distribute vaccines better. We help FedEx get PPE out the door. We help, and you are helping your companies deliver more value more quickly via that process. So all these things, AI, big data, cloud, and they start to converge and they come together. So in the area of cloud, we just are starting to describe for the average development manager, maybe the engineer that's been on site for 10 or 20 years, maybe a new person that came up, learning Python and scripting web services. They need to understand what the cloud can do for them. And in the middle of all of this DevOps initiative that we've been going through for the last decade or so, wherein we go into these large data centers, these legacy environments, and try to implement DevOps, really struggles because their systems are so heterogeneous, right? You might have a system that has mainframe assembly code. COBOL would still be on those systems. The cloud is different. The cloud has been designed natively so that your DevOps tool chain feeds directly into your operations, and you have the ability to push very quickly through basically your cloud-based pipeline with best tools available in the industry hosted on the cloud to cloud-native solutions. So no longer are we in a situation where we develop the application and then go, now we need to move that to the cloud, and then we'll do our local kind of server-side development, and hope we can export that application. It's all one homogeneous flow from the development pipeline all the way into the application, all the way into the containerization, all the way into the scalability of services. It's all there. So again, why do we care? Because we need to understand these things. I need to understand them to understand my business. How do we do AI without the cloud? Well, we probably don't in our case. We have a few applications that we would need the cloud. You need to understand them because this is the way you're going to develop the systems of the future. So there's just no question that these things are important. And they aren't three things. There's not, oh, there's AI and there's big data and there's cloud. Well, they are kind of. They're major things. There's a difference between doing your cloud hosting in Amazon Web Service and using Microsoft Machine Learning Studio, but yet they're converging. And we start to see convergence around the areas that are kind of interesting for us. One of our customers here basically has built the Alexa for development and maintenance of aircraft. So AI, big data, cloud, all integrated directly in their application. They use SAFE to achieve that, and they've already reported achieving multi-million-dollar cost savings per year in various areas. One I thought was interesting, I just pulled this out of a data feed the other day, is that one of our customers in Australia, the Department of Health, is applying it what they call AI ops. Now, you always heard the biz dev AI dev sec ops things. Well, AI, what they're describing as is how they're applying AI driven insights to enhance the delivery of IT services. So most of the stuff is running on the cloud now, and now they can use AI to watch how they deliver, where they have bottlenecks, what kinds of patterns are forming that they're not aware of, and basically evolve better service and support that way by using SAFE and their AI ops initiative. So again, you can't really discriminate and say, oh, there's It's AI just for in the application, or AI just for development, or AI in the operational value stream. These are just general purpose technologies. All three of these occur across all industries. Special purpose technologies aren't so scalable for us and safe. But when we find a general purpose technology, it's absolutely true that we want to let you know about that and provide whatever training and education and insights you need. Sometimes it's just an article. We have a new article being published, and maybe Andy mentioned it on OKRs, objectives and key results. That might be the end of that article, or it might start a new thread. Sometimes they're really deep articles, like these three AI, big data, and cloud articles are, and they'll probably also have their own threads, meaning that they could be entire domains over time. We don't know. We figure out what's important. We make a first pass. We get fast feedback, and we evolve from there. As I was thinking about the question, where do we get our insights and what keeps us from being blindsided from something that's happening, I reflected on one of the ways I've been spending my time for the last 5 or 6 years. It's not just me, it's some other members of the team, and that's in this community. To me, it all started out with the Phoenix Project and Gene Kim's book. And then he developed the DevOps Enterprise Forum and the DevOps Enterprise Summit. And out of that, he kind of fostered the IT Revolution Press. These 4 books are right there on my desk. Any book I care about, I have to have a Kindle and a hard copy. There's no substitute for a tangible look into principles of product development flow. I need to have the hard copy. These are the books, it's just a subset of the books that have mostly influenced our thinking as a framework team. What's interesting, they all come from the one source, IT Revolution Press. So Gene Kim has an eye on people. There's about 50 to 100 independent thought leaders that he works with, and he invites them in a forum I'll talk about here in a second to work together to invent new stuff. But McPherson's book, Project Product, heavily influencing our work. The Unicorn Project, an excellent novel if you want to learn all about, all of it, AI, big data, cloud, DevOps, security, A/B testing, infinitely scalable resources, etc. It's in the Unicorn Project. And the DevOps Handbook, which is really, I think, the DevOps community best shot at describing what DevOps is and how you do it. And new team topologies, really calling it a simple paradigm wouldn't be fair, but it's a straightforward way to think about organizing teams and agile release trains for better organization around value. It's hugely powerful. We read this stuff, we study this stuff, we go to the conferences because we know you don't have to have time to do so. You have a day job called building the world's most important systems. Our day job is to figure out how to help you do that. That separation of concerns is important. If I was also building one of the world's most important systems, then I'd be worried about that system. Well, SAFE is an important system for sure. Okay, it's a big fat website. It's not the type of thing that you built. So our focus is on what we need to learn and apply so that you can build your systems better. And one of the forums there is the DevOps Enterprise Forum. And I got invited, I think, 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. This is kind of a Gene Kim special. He invites the thought leaders in the industry that he wants. Nobody pays to go, nobody makes any money to go, to attend a free 3-day workshop. It's not a non-conference because there's definitely structure to it. And the people that go there decide what are the important topics they want to talk about. And they vote those ahead of time. And they say, well, what do we want to talk about? We want to talk about things like, industrial DevOps. What the heck is that? That's applying DevOps to building big cyber physical systems. You can't do that. You can't continuously integrate a stepping motor with its power supply and with its digital signal processor. It's impossible. Well, you're right. You kind of can't, but you kind of can because you do continuous integration of those things and understand the specific integration points in the evolution of that system to develop that system better and faster. So we contribute there, and we're so fortunate that 4 of us now have gotten invitations. So we follow there for sure. We learn, we lead. We have a couple paradigms. Dr. Steve Maynard has basically brought some of the thinking of Burns and transformational leadership to the leadership side of DevOps. We attend, we review, we contribute, we partner, we publish, and we do metricing. And the reason we do metricing is that that's where the best insights on metrics come from. if you don't have a notion of a continuous delivery pipeline, how do you measure the flow between you and the customer? I honestly don't know how to do that. You basically have to have that. So we're active in that community, and that's, in my view, that's the deepest knowledge pool. There's stuff going on in Agile too, but it's more Agile stuff. The insights and the knowledge, I think, come from this community. I think some of the brightest people in terms of thinking about leadership, thinking about cloud, thinking about security, thinking about IT and audit compliance. It's just a really great place to get information. We attend every year, and also the DevOps Enterprise Summit. If you get a chance to go to that, I don't know where it is this year. I think they just finished their one in Europe. This is a great source of IP. You can see where the world is going here, because 50 of the smartest people in the world have been tasked to think their deepest thoughts and make their crispest presentation about what we think is going to happen next in the world. And then this kind of newbie kind of came up, this messaging around value stream management. And it kind of shook up the world a little bit. Well, maybe not the world, but certainly in our organization. It's like, well, value stream management is cool. Okay. Probably it's partially cool because we introduced it into the science of application development. But it's a topic, it's a label. What is that label? Well, here's a couple of views of the label. I'll look at the Forrester one on the right because it's shorter. A combination of people, process, and technology that maps, optimizes, visualizes, measures, and governs business value flow. You know, those epic stories and work items through heterogeneous enterprise software delivery pipelines. Those are the tools that enable the practice of value stream management. So, simply stated, it's people, process, and tools. And I think that this community is very focused on the tools that are needed to properly be able to, you know, measure and monitor the stuff through the pipeline. We have physics in Agile. We have things like user stories and features, and they go through the system. And they go through those various states. You know, they're in development, they're in staging, they've been deployed but not turned on, they've been turned on and they're in A/B testing. We have a lot of physics and mechanics around software development, and we'd like to be able to measure that and understand how that works. Gartner over here on the lower left, you notice Gartner says, wow, we use AI machine learning powered analytics, surface constraints, defect. Now you see from companies like Digital AI, a really broad labeling claim about using AI in basically the application development pipeline. So this is a CD pipeline on steroids, all the way back out to the continuous exploration area through continuous integration and continuous deployment. Well, the good news is for us, as opposed to, let's say, talking about AI, it's not really a new thing, right? Value streams have been unsafe for, I don't know, 5-6 years, and they get more and more prominent. They're more prominent on the one behind me, because that was the first time where we surfaced operational value streams up there in the corner. We always talked about them, but they weren't first-class citizens. Turns out they're our customer for the most part. So we surfaced the operational value streams. And then as we started thinking about business agility and time to market, we started to think about what steps are involved in shortening that time to market. And we call that the business agility value stream. Now, that's just one value stream. Some people get a little confused. They say, well, there's a business agility value stream, there's operational value streams. There's all kinds of value streams, okay? A value stream is a trigger for value, a bunch of steps in value delivered. So we can't use the word to say, well, that's a value stream and its other interesting flow is not. So the business agility value stream is simply a big one. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more because this is one of the ways we get fastest time to market. So what does this all mean? And what was I challenged with? The customer was saying, basically, what makes us safe with you guys, right? And are we following a path where maybe there's another path? Maybe there's a paradigm shift of some kind that will make the work we're doing in lean and agile and safe and DevOps, and add to that systems thinking and design thinking and all the tools and technologies and methods and practices that we have. Is there something that's going to make all this stuff obsolete? Not that I can see. When it happens, we'll see it, we'll mine it, and we'll make sure it goes your way. But after 40 or 50 years of this, I don't think we're looking at a paradigm where really, really smart cyber-physical systems program themselves and AI is deployed to figure out what the code should be and it boots itself up and it fires itself off. That's not going to happen. This is still people making code and realistically handcrafting millions of lines of code to very high level systems. I mean, maybe scripting Salesforce now or using WordPress or something like that instead of individually handcrafted lines of code. But the reality is we have great tools and technologies now, and we know what we need to do. But what we need to do isn't the trivial thing. It's not a thing where we can say, you know, this safe for business agility, the core competencies, I just really need to get good at lean portfolio management. That's where the work comes from. So if I get good there, it'll be better downstream. Well, not if agile product delivery and the team of technical agility isn't there to deliver it. And then what happens when I have these really big systems? What happens when I have a cyber physical system? You know, maybe it's an Airbus device being developed using SAFe. We need to do things differently there. We need lean systems engineering practices. We need to coordinate large scale work. And those systems, all the systems, the cyber physical systems we shipped used to go out, I remember it well, with a static code base. And then we'd have a CD-ROM or USB port, and we go update it and hope the thing ran. These systems are live now. They're deployed. They stay live. They are living beasts, and they get new software every day. You know the model. You get new software everywhere you turn. You're getting an update every day. I saw Google had what they call it's like it's on TV. It's like I think it's you'll get feature drops or whatever they called it. They have a word for it now. It says, well, guess what? You buy the phone, you're getting feature drops every day. And that works very differently. But here's the good news. We have everything there we need. Here's the tougher news. Pretty much have to do it all. You can't just pick 3 or 4 of these and say, we're great at that, but our leadership isn't on board with this way of working. Or we're great at that, but we still can't get the organization to track to a change in the market. So for that, we just need to go faster, and we need to fire up that business agility value stream and talk about one more thing to speed things up. So we're going to have 2 steps in speeding up the flow. You saw the first one this morning with Andy. The first step is we're going to apply VSM on the full safe business agility value stream now. Okay. So if we have any initiative in any enterprise that's adopting SAFe, we've got to do it all now on that initiative. We can't wait to launch 5 agile teams and poll them and say, how did you like the daily stand-up? Or we started one art and we know it took us about 4 months to stand up the art and we have 100 more to go. So in 400 more months, no, we've got to go, and we got to go hard, and we got to go now. But we know the pattern, right? And the pattern is the way we used to do it, which was we find the initiative, wait for next year budget cycle. I can't do it this year because I'm already budgeted. Well, this initiative came up in March. We've already budgeted for the year. You can't wait the next year to even start it. Okay, so you have to have block funding available through the lean budgeting paradigm, and the rest of the stuff, you know. The last thing we want to do is execute this. And we have a replacement now. And that replacement is a business agility value stream. And this is well encoded in SAFe. This is now the way we look at SAFe. Yes, there are competencies. Yes, there's a big picture, a lot of stuff on there. What do I do with it? Put it to work. Put it to work this way. Make sure that you have the ability, the organizational agility to sense the opportunity. You've got to be in the market. You've got to be ready. You've got to be sensing these things. You got to see them, and you've got to fund it immediately. You got to fund the MVP now, not in the next annual budget cycle. That means you have to have allocated money to value streams that's reserved but not spent. In other words, it's allocated but spent and not designed and purposed to specific program yet. Otherwise, I can't fund the MVP. Oh, I've got a great budget. It's all allocated and it's all being spent on projects. No, it's a reserve that I can use to do things. So I can fund that MVP as quickly as possible. And I can organize around value. I might already be, but my teams and arts are using the team topologies in SAFe. They're organized in such a way that the platform team can suck in some more big data. A streamlined team can do a better job of delivering value specifically to a particular customer type. And with any luck at all, we're there and ready to go, and we just need the work. So this is the age-old agile adage of bring the work to the people. We're there and we're ready to go. And that requires the competencies of team and technical agility and also organizational agility. I was extremely pleased in SAFe 5.0 when we moved to business agility. They also had the time, the people, and the opportunity to incorporate design thinking. I've been a fan of design thinking for decades. You know, it's not one book. It's really a series of practices and approaches. But we didn't really describe it in SAFe. And you could look at SAFe and say, well, how do you know you're building the right thing? Well, we managed to express that. Now we say it's there for you. Every art, every team, every product owner. And by the way, in the upcoming versions of SAFe, more explicitly, every product owner and product manager and development team is actively engaged in connecting with the customer. It's always been implied. It's not like we didn't know the customer was there, but it becomes a directed path. And we deliver the MVP. Now, people can argue about, well, MVPs they're poor excuses for products, and they're weak answers to a hard problem. And we've seen so many MVPs get developed that never got launched. And we've seen so many MVPs that never got advanced. Hey, you can do bad MVPs, but let me state this a little bit differently. If you want to make a major initiative, make waves in the market with a major initiative, don't spend all the money before you've proven the point. So however you think about this MVP, ask yourself the question, how much do we have to spend to prove the point or not? If this is innovative, it better have some risk. If it doesn't have any risk, it's not innovative at all. And you're just basically, you're breathing somebody else's exhaust fumes. But if you're going to innovate, you're going to have to take some risk. In order to do that, we want to spend a little before we spend a lot. And we can deliver that thing because we're organized to deliver it. And we can pivot or persevere and ignore sunk costs because we're mature, agilists and VPs and software development people now. So we ignore sunk costs because they are sunk. The money is gone. Now, if the money helps you get someplace with less money next, then, well, that's pretty useful. But it doesn't really matter. It's not coming back. I can't go like respend it. And if that money was spent in a way that's now is not going to produce the same return that some other investment might do, ignore it. Well, I think we say pivot without mercy or guilt. The money is gone. And ignoring sunk costs is really difficult for people, but we can do that now because that's part of our lean startup methodology as part of SAFe. And then, of course, with our CD pipeline, Azure Product Delivery, Enterprise Solution Delivery, we can deliver value continuously. These cyber-physical systems are live, applications are live. The whole notion of, design complete, system complete, deployed, this design is never done. These systems are not complete. I mean, you probably have experience seeing code that you thought was going to be retired 10 years ago, maybe that you wrote still in the field. I have that experience. Now I'm happy to say none of it's in the field anymore. So the world is definitely a safer place without having any of that code that I wrote in the past. But these systems are live and we deliver to them continuously, and they deliver value continuously to their customers because of it. And of course, we have to be able to learn and adapt, and we have to have a culture that can take risks. We have a culture that can make mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to have an initiative fail. That initiative proved that we didn't want to spend any more money in it. That looks like a success. So adopting that culture is not a trivial thing, as well, Step number 2, basically I'm done here in my time box. Improve flow through the business agility value stream. So we set up the value stream, we set up all the mechanisms. The question is, how do we make value flow without interruptions? And I don't have to belabor it here because that's exactly what Andy talked about. And in future versions of SAFe, and even in some addendums or extensions of SAFe, you're going to see how we think about doing that, because we get the system structure, we get the backlogs, we get some flow, and then we go back and we say, that could flow better if. What are the constraints and what are the bottlenecks? And this is part of our new IP. And you got to see that, frankly, probably before anybody in the industry did, about the way we're thinking now about these flow fundamentals, the 10 or so things that you have to be able to address, and use these as analytical tools. So when your flow is happening, it's better than it was. You want it to flow faster. These are the tools you're going to put to work to debug that situation. So you as analysts and SPCs and Scrum Masters and product owners and developers and change agents, people doing this work, will have a new set of tools with you. Yeah, if I want to make flow work, I got to be able to make sure I can make that pipeline work. And I need to know what the metrics are and how to do that. So really happy to announce this. This will be integrated with our new perspective on measuring flow. Flow is measurable. We have agile physics now. We put things through. We put code in systems. We put stories through the system. Stories can go into features. We put test cases against them. We have lots of ways to basically measure and monitor that work through the system. And we have a standard way now to talk about how you measure flow predictively. So at the end of my time box, just two things. Deploy the SAFe business agility value stream and know it's going to be hard, because there's almost nothing in SAFe you don't have to touch in order to do that effectively. But you cannot wait 2 years for your SAFe implementation to be mature enough to come back and say, now let's really use it. It's easier to just rip that Band-Aid off and start and do it. Flow is a further accelerator. SAFe already flows. It's a flow-based system. We have cadence and we have cadence and synchronization with a continuous release on demand and pipeline process, but it can flow faster and you can make it flow faster. Our job is to support you today and into the future. As we continue to evolve our guidance and learn new things, we're going to share them with you. That's our job. You build those great big systems. We'll help provide the guidance that you need to be able to do that more effectively. So thank you very much for my time for my talk. I think I honestly lost control of the time, but I think I left some time for a few questions. So I'll go back to my my keepers here and ask if we have time for questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Thank you very much. Okay, yes, we have, I guess, 10 or 15 more minutes. Okay, so now we're seeing on the screen the most voted questions for you. So the first one is, okay, you have already spoken about new things coming into SAFe. And so the question is, when do you expect to release the new version for SAFe? What could you anticipate about it? So I guess this question was written before you did your explanation, but if you want to add some more.
So with respect to when we release new versions of SAFe, we're pretty circumspect about that. And the reason is that we are a partner-enabled company. Our partners do the service delivery, and we have to prepare them to be able to go immediately into the market with new stuff. We don't want to put up a new version of SAFe and have their calendars get emptied because they're not prepared for that. So we have to go through a pretty diligent process of preparing. So I'm not announcing a date for the next version of SAFe. However, we have a summit coming up, and some elements of what we're doing and the things that we're previewing here will be available then. So in particular, this whole flow paradigm will be available in one sort or another as advanced topics or maybe an addendum. And in addition, I've already noted that OKRs, AI, big data, and cloud, and value stream management have already been pushed out live long since 5.1. So about every month or so, new stuff goes out. When it gets a new painted big picture, that's tougher. We have to be careful about that. But regardless of when that gets replaced on my wall, there's continuous value delivery to you essentially every week through articles and blogs and other information. And if you attend the summit, and there's hope for a European summit this next year, we're all tired of working from home. I've been in my office 2.5 years now. We'll have more time to be in the field and talk more about it. So it's a continuous delivery model with occasional new big pictures.
Okay, thank you. Second one is, how do you integrate data governance in SAFe? It says master data management, data lineage, etc.
Okay, so that's what we're just starting to opine on, right? So what we did to answer that question is we went to about a dozen of our largest enterprises and we worked with them on site and mostly by interviews to interview how they did data governance. And they started talking about basically platform arts, for example, that did nothing but create normalize the data and deliver it to others. They talked about how they did need to centralize data, and they had to figure out the various adapters to get various levels of various sources of data into the system. You might be looking for something with Salesforce, something in the field, or whatever. So that governance model is described in the kind of the data ops part of SAFE, and that article is available now. So it does a better job of articulating how we see data governance than I can do here in this short minute.
Okay, another good one from my point of view is, it says individuals and interactions over processes and tools.
Yep.
Can Agile be disrupted by AI? What do you think?
I think everything's disrupted by AI. What's interesting about AI is that it's the development process is incredibly experimental and incredibly iterative. So I think what's virtually impossible is to say, I've got this AI initiative and here's my requirements, and here's my design, and I'm gonna work through this in a logical fashion. These AI systems, they start immediately and they evolve really quickly. So what's necessary is that you can't actually get to AI without Agile. So if your world said where AI is going to be in our applications, you can't get the rapid learning cycles without running Agile development. Will that disrupt Agile? I don't know. I mean, these are all labels. Will there be a time when we don't need to go faster to market? No. Are we seeing insights early on about AI is augmenting the development pipeline? Yes. Have we seen any auto code generated massive successes in the market where developers sit back and fire off an AI engine and create code? Not to my knowledge. Grady Booch is a personal friend of mine. He's chief scientist for AI at IBM. And he says the same thing. The examples out there right now are they're kind of house of cards. Will it disrupt the way we develop software? Yes. How? Beats me. And I think one interesting thing to do right now would be look in those tool chains and see if some of the labeling claims for the task ops and the digital AIs and the Atlassians about how their tools work and use AI to do a better job of supporting the development pipeline.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess this is the last one. Some people here are asking how to implement SAFE without changing the organization. Is that possible?
No, it's not. No, the answer is no, you can't do that. I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
And the hard side is you have to change most everything. So it's not just changing the organization. I mean, everything from employee motivation to compensation practices, to the governance model, to the way teams work together, to the functional hierarchies, to the silos, to the funding model. It's all different. And I got a question just the other day. It says, why is it so hard for our enterprise to have sustained Agile teams? How come that all the time we take people and put them on projects, even in the midst of this? So this change is necessary. If your organization doesn't want to change, they're not going to be succeed with SAFE or any other thing they need to do to survive in the digital age. Change is your friend. Facts are friendly. Just do it.
Thank you very much, Dean. It has been, I believe, a brilliant ending for our event today. So thank you very much for attending us live today, and see you.
Thanks for having me. See you.